What is going on, my friends from YouTube? Today I want to talk to you guys about MicroStrategy stock MSTR because it is really low, and it just seems like every day it just keeps going lower, which is wild to me. And I want to explain to you guys why I think it's extremely undervalued, and I think that what we're going through right now is almost unprecedented for MicroStrategy. All right, but before I get into it, I gotta let you guys know that you guys should subscribe to my channel. You know, like I make videos on AI, crypto, robotics, and asymmetric bets in the stock market daily. Sometimes I make even a few videos daily. So yeah, if you're interested in making some money in the stock market and in crypto, smash that subscribe button. And also, by the way, let me know how many MSTR shares you've got in the comment section below. Let's get into it. All right, MSTR. So last time I looked, which was maybe 20 minutes ago, MSTR stock price was around like 270, 265. I think it got down all the way to 260 today, which is just nuts to me, you know? Like MSTR, the MNAV is like around 1.25, 1.3, something like that. So their value, their market cap with respect to the amount of Bitcoin holdings they have, right? So yeah, they are still valued at a slight premium to their Bitcoin holdings. But let me tell you guys why that MNAV is just way too low, right? So it's like multifaceted. Like the reasons why MSTR MicroStrategy is so incredibly undervalued, and why I think like long-term investors in this stock are gonna make a bag. Let's just put it that way. That's my personal opinion. I'm just some guy on YouTube. I'm not a financial advisor, but here's my points as to why I think MSTR is gonna make millionaires. Essentially, I think long-term investors are gonna do very well with MSTR. First off, just the underlying asset in general. Like Bitcoin is the hardest asset in the world. You can't make more of them. There's 21 million capped, and MSTR is 640,000 Bitcoin right now, right? And they're gonna continue accumulating Bitcoin. Michael Saylor, the guy who runs MicroStrategy, has said before that they're gonna end up getting to something like, you know, over 1 million Bitcoins. I don't know how many they're actually going to get by the end of the day, but I would not be surprised if they got over 1 million Bitcoin, if they got, you know, 5, 6, 7% of the total supply of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, right? So by far the largest Bitcoin treasury company, and I don't think anyone's ever going to catch up to MicroStrategy. I just don't think it's going to happen, right? I don't think any company has a shot. I think MetaPlanet is probably long-term going to be the second largest Bitcoin treasury company, but they just don't have the capital. They don't have the access to capital that MicroStrategy does, because MicroStrategy was the first mover in this market. They're really like the pioneer of the crypto treasury industry. So yeah, so like I said, first off is just the asset itself. Let's say, you know, MicroStrategy didn't accumulate any more Bitcoin, I still think that they would be doing great. Because if Bitcoin goes to 1 million, if Bitcoin goes to 10 million over the next 10, 20 years, you know, you can basically 10 to 100x the value of their Bitcoin just like straight up, right? Because the asset that they hold has went up 10 to 100x. So if you're a Bitcoin believer, it's almost impossible not to believe in MicroStrategy. But then the other thing is, like, they're just the perpetual preferred shares are just such an ingenious idea. I mean, seriously, just genius. I mean, just wildly smart. And it's so funny that it took until 2020 for like an actual public company to take advantage of the opportunity of perpetual preferred shares and accumulating Bitcoin on the balance sheet, essentially using other people's money to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet for their stock, right, for their company. It's so interesting because, you know, Bitcoin came out in 2008, 2009. So it took over a decade for someone to finally realize, oh, wow, I can use other people's money to buy Bitcoin for my company. And basically we can all win, you know? So, but yeah. So STRC, strike, right? This is like a wonderful idea. This is just like crazy. Like I will be honest, I don't own any STRC yet, but like I currently hold my savings account in SoFi, right? And SoFi is paying me like 3.8% on my emergency fund and my savings, right? So, you know, which is a 5-figure amount. It's not like I have a small amount in my savings account. Like I own a house, I've got cars, I've got assets, right? So I need to be able to, you know, I need to keep some cash on the sidelines, right? And essentially STRC allows you to do that. STRC is stealing straight from the savings and bond markets, right? So STRC right now gives you a dividend of 10.25% on an annual basis. But the way it does it is it gives you a return on capital. So in other words, STRC is a stock that essentially they try to keep it around $100 per share, and they do that by fluctuating the dividend based upon supply and demand for the shares, right? So the idea is keep this fixed income instrument stock at $100 per share, and basically give you dividends, but the dividends are paid in return of capital. So essentially lowers your cost basis every single month, because these quote unquote dividends are paid monthly, right? So every single month, your cost basis for your STRC shares will go down, but the STRC shares themselves stay static. Or essentially, they move a little bit, but not very much. Like, if you look at it, you can see it's like 98, 99, 100. And if you look at the actual idea behind them, they actually do try to keep them at $100 per share, right? So they do want this just to be a fixed income instrument, right? This isn't like some sort of, Ponzi scheme, or like some sort of ploy to get your money and not pay you the dividends, or like maybe pay you a dividend, but the share price goes way down. No, that's not the case. This is literally, they're paying you 10.25% for your money, and then taking your money and going and buying Bitcoin with it on the MSTR balance sheet, right? So it's like, it's this crazy idea where, you've got $330 trillion in the bond market worldwide, right? And the bond market pays you very little money. And it's, it's wild. It's like, why would you bank with anyone? Why would you have a savings account? So like the other thing about the dividends is like, you don't have to pay any tax on them until you sell the share. So they're tax deferred, almost like an IRA or a 401k or something, right? So you get your 10.25% annual dividend and a monthly payment as a reduction in your cost basis. So eventually, your cost basis could be $50 a share, right? After 5 years, we'll say, because 50% in 5 years. And like I said, there's no, if you guys know a better guaranteed return than that, let me know in the comment section, because I don't know one. Like the S&P 500, not guaranteed. The only thing I know that's guaranteed is like bonds, savings accounts, and basically this, the perpetual preferred shares. So yeah, if you can steal from the bond market, which is $330 trillion, to go buy an asset like Bitcoin that has a total market cap right now of just a little over 2 trillion, right? So it's like new age, like we're in 2025. I don't own any bonds. I've never actually owned a bond. I don't think, if I have, I've never bought one. Maybe my grandparents bought me a bond, when I was like a little kid. But like in 2025, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, like, dude, none of us are buying bonds. Like, that's not a thing, We're not going to sit here and try to compete with inflation with our returns, Inflation is massive. I don't care what CPI says. I don't care what anyone says. The Fed's going to keep printing money. Every government's going to continue to print money, which is going to shoot all inflation hedges to the moon. Look what's happened with gold, right? Like we don't stand a chance if we don't outperform the market. That's my mindset, actually, when it comes to investing. Like, if I don't outperform the entire market, whether it's like I said, whether it's inflation, number one, and then also the S&P 500, I want to beat that. Like, I don't want to be sitting here and getting just 10% a year. I know inflation is not going to be 10% a year, but I also want to like generate wealth and like live a good life and be able to travel and be able to live in a nice house and live the life that I want and raise my kids right, to the point where it's like, I know that with my knowledge and my experience and my ability to like adapt and learn and things, that I can beat the market, right? And without timing the market. I don't believe in timing the market either. I believe in long-term investing, keeping money on the sidelines for like an emergency fund, for your house, for your children, for your family, whatever. But like this STRC preferred share is essentially a savings account, because at any point you could sell these shares, and yeah, you're gonna have to pay taxes the next year, but it's like, that's all on free money, right? These quote unquote dividends, you're just paying the capital gains tax on the dividends. You would pay them regardless, right? So it's just very interesting. And it's very ingenious, like I said, if you ask me, that no one's thought of doing this before. It's never happened before. And Michael Saylor's implementing this. And Michael Saylor is like a household name dang near at this point, you know? Like almost everyone's heard of him. And MicroStrategy itself, you know, they were a $2 billion company 5 years ago, and now they're a $100 billion company, right? And they're worth, like I said, the stock price is like $265 today. So in my personal humble opinion, I think it is time to back up the Brinks truck on some MSTR shares, where it's like, do we really see, what's the bottom for Bitcoin? Let me know in the comment section, guys, below what your bottom for Bitcoin is. What, like forever, like let's say the bottom for Bitcoin in the next year, and then your forever bottom. What you think is the absolute bottom Bitcoin will ever go to? Because my bottom is high. My bottom is not very far from here. Like I personally don't see Bitcoin going below like 85 or 90,000 ever again. And I think unless, okay, let me caveat that with like a World War III nuclear bomb, crazy black swan event. Okay, yeah, then I see Bitcoin go down a lot. But barring a crazy black swan event, I don't see much going on with Bitcoin as far as like it going below 85, 90,000. Just like a bear market, I don't think it goes below that. There's just too many things on Bitcoin's side to even put it all into one video for me to explain to you guys why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin itself as well as MSTR. So it's like twofold. It's like not only is Bitcoin, do I think Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million or 10 million, but I think the MSTR is buying this asset that's going to go to $1 million, $10 million, hand over fist almost every single week with other people's money. And they figured out a way to do it legally in a way that's accretive to MicroStrategy as well as accretive to MicroStrategy shareholders by increasing Bitcoin per share. So the more shares you own of MicroStrategy, the more Bitcoin you're actually going to own in the long term. You actually increase your Bitcoin holdings by simply owning MicroStrategy. You can have the same number of MicroStrategy shares, but your Bitcoin holdings actually go up, right? And you're paying a very small premium for that ability, right? So, I mean, that's really what I kind of wanted to talk about in this video today here, was like how STRC specifically affects you as a consumer, or I guess as a saver, as someone with money that has an emergency fund, that has cash on the sidelines, that you could take it out of that stock at any point, pay taxes the next year on your dividends, but get a fixed instrument, you know, a fixed income instrument that demolishes any sort of rate you're going to get at any of the big banks. But also, like, all of that money that you're putting into this fund, this STRC, is helping MicroStrategy accumulate more Bitcoin in an accretive way for shareholders. So it's like, I'm really, the more I learn about Michael Saylor, the more I learn about MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, the more, you guys, I just get red pilled. I'm like, how in the world does this not just continue to just rise and rise and rise? And like like I've said in previous videos, guys, it's like all these governments are buying Bitcoin on the low key, you know, and not telling us, you know. You got how many countries in the world? Like over 200. You're trying to tell me that not a single one of these countries is printing their own money and then buying Bitcoin with it? I guarantee you there are some, right? I don't know what the price of Bitcoin is going to be tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be next week. I don't know what it's going to be next month. Same thing with MSTR. I don't know what it's going to be in a week or a month or next year, right? But my personal humble opinion of some guy that invests his money and talks to you guys on YouTube is that I think Bitcoin as well as MSTR is a very, very, very solid investment for the long term. And I think you're going to absolutely demolish the S&P 500 in the long term, right? And if you can stomach the volatility of an asset like this, where it's like crazy volatile, where it can move 10+% a day, up or down. If you can stomach that, that's the big deal. Don't put too much of your money into something, an asset like this, where you're like, oh crap, I just lost half my life savings in 3 days. That's not the play, right? The play is know your risk level. Know how much you can lose, know how much you can gain. Don't set stop losses. I'm not a financial advisor, but if you buy MicroStrategy, you're like, oh, I'm worried it's going to go to 240. And so if it goes to 240, then I'm going to sell it so it doesn't go, so I don't lose any more money. I cannot stand stop losses. It's like, if you're a trader, do your own thing. This is not really a trading channel. I'm not a trader. I'm a type of guy that's like, in 2030, I want my investment portfolio to like be like 5 or 10x the size it is now. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for different stocks, different assets, different asset classes. I don't care what it is, as long as it doesn't take much work for me. I can just put money somewhere and it grow. That's what I want. I want to make slaves of my money, like they talk about in the book The Richest Man in Babylon, right? I want to use my own knowledge, my own experience, what I can learn from other people, what I can learn introspectively, all these things, to be able to increase my portfolio as much as I possibly can in a responsible way, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years, or even longer than that. But like I'm focused on, you know, like I said, in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's where that's where MSTR plays in, guys. And I'm just obsessed, guys. I'm obsessed with MSTR and Bitcoin, and I think the more you guys learn about it, the more you guys will probably get on board with me. But maybe you don't, you know. So let me know in the comment section below what your price target is for MSTR, whether you agree with me that you think Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million or 10 million, whether you own any STRC shares, or whatever else you want to talk about in the comment section below. Let me know how I'm wrong. Let me know how I'm right. Whatever you want to say, let's have a discussion, right? That's what I'm about. I'm all about open discussion so we can all make money and become profitable and our portfolios can grow, right? So guys, if you made it this far in the video, you know what I'm going to say. You got to subscribe to the channel. You know, I make videos like this all the time where I try to give you my insight into the markets. And like I said, hopefully we can all make some money together. So thanks for watching, guys. Have yourself a great day.